Are you absolutely sure that airline seat you picked, paid for, and mentally claimed as yours is still waiting for you? Or could it vanish without warning while you're sipping coffee at the gate? That single question is the quiet fear millions of travelers experience every year without fully understanding it. And today, on Golden Age Travel Tips, I'm breaking down one of the most confusing, frustrating, and shockingly common airline practices that almost nobody explains clearly. Why airlines randomly rebook you without warning, even when you've done everything right. Your ticket is confirmed, your boarding pass is issued, and your trip seems locked in, because behind the polished apps, friendly cabin crews, and calm airport announcements is a fast-moving system designed to protect the airline first, the schedule second, and you. Well, somewhere after that, and I'm saying this not just as a travel planner, but as someone who understands airport security operations, airline control rooms, and the quiet decisions made long before you ever hear your name called over the PA system. And here's the truth. Most travelers don't want to hear lines don't randomly rebook you. It only feels random because you're not allowed to see the triggers. And those triggers start activating the moment you buy a ticket. Because airlines operate on predictive math, not promises. Meaning, every flight is a living calculation that constantly changes based on aircraft weight, crew legality, weather systems hundreds of miles away, airport congestion, security staffing levels, international overflight permissions, maintenance flags, and something called historical passenger behavior, which sounds harmless until you realize it includes data on how often people miss connections. Check bags late, show up early, or don't show up at all. And once you're inside that system, your seat is never truly yours until the aircraft door closes. And even then, sometimes not. And let me walk you through what actually happens. Because imagine this scenario. You booked a non-stop flight months ago, selected your seat, maybe even paid extra for it. You checked in online, got your boarding pass, and you're feeling good, relaxed, scrolling your phone. When suddenly your app refreshes and your seat number is gone, replaced with C Agent, your heart rate jumps, your stomach tightens, and you start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Did I miss an email? Am I in trouble? But here's the uncomfortable answer. You didn't do anything wrong at all. Because one of the most common reasons airlines rebook passengers is aircraft swaps. And this happens far more often than airlines admit publicly. Because planes are machines, and machines break. And when a plane scheduled for your flight develops even a minor mechanical issue earlier in the day, operations might swap it for a smaller aircraft to keep the schedule moving, which instantly reduces seat count. And when that happens, the system must decide who stays and who gets bumped. And that decision is not emotional, it's algorithmic. And the algorithm prioritizes fare class, loyalty status, connection importance, checked baggage status, and even how disruptive rebooking you would be compared to someone else. So if you booked a basic or discounted fare, or if you're ending your journey at a busy hub instead of a small city, you suddenly become easier to move, easier to rebook, easier to sacrifice. And airlines rarely explain this because from their perspective, they didn't cancel your trip, they just adjusted it. And that word hides a lot of pain, but aircraft swaps are only the beginning. Because another massive rebooking trigger is crew legality, something almost no travelers understand. And here's where my airport security and operations knowledge really matters. Because pilots and flight attendants are governed by strict federal duty time laws. Meaning, they can only work a certain number of hours before they are legally required to stop. And if a crew is delayed earlier in the day due to weather, air traffic control holds, or security issues at another airport, they might time out before your flight even boards. And when that happens, airlines scramble to find a replacement crew. But replacement crews aren't always trained on the same aircraft type or available at that airport, so the airline might delay, cancel, or rebook passengers onto different flights to reduce load, because a lighter passenger count can allow a different crew configuration or routing approval. And again, the system decides, not a human face you can argue with. And then there's weight and balance, which sounds boring until it ruins your trip. Because every aircraft has precise weight limits based on runway length, temperature, wind conditions, and fuel requirements, and on hot days or at high-altitude airports. Planes can't safely take off at full weight. So airlines quietly remove passengers to stay within safety margins. And they don't announce this as we removed you because physics, they simply rebook you, often blaming operational reasons. And here's the part most people never realize. Sometimes the system preemptively rebooks passengers hours before the flight even reaches the gate, based on weather forecasts or runway performance predictions. So by the time you notice something is wrong, the decision was made long ago. And that's why agents sometimes look calm while you're panicking, because to them, this already happened. And now, let's talk about overbooking, the most infamous reason of all. And yes, airlines still overbook flights aggressively. Because statistically, some passengers don't show up, miss connections, or cancel last minute, and airlines would rather risk angering a few people than fly empty seats. And what's changed recently is that airlines use real-time behavior data, meaning if you booked a tight connection or if your inbound flight is slightly delayed, the system may flag you as high risk of missing the flight and preemptively rebook you to protect on-time departure, even if you actually make it to the gate on time. And this feels brutal, because from your perspective, you did everything right. You ran through the terminal, you made it, but the system already moved on without you. And now you're arguing with software logic through a tired gate agent who didn't personally choose you? And speaking of gate agents, let me clear something up. Most rebooking decisions are not made by the gate staff. They're made by centralized airline operations centers, sometimes located thousands of miles away, where teams monitor hundreds of flights at once, and security factors also come into play. Because if there's a last-minute security concern, documentation issue, or passenger manifests discrepancy, airlines may reshuffle passengers quietly to comply with regulations. And no, they won't always tell you that's why. Because security rules limit what they're allowed to disclose, especially on international routes. And here's another uncomfortable truth. Your seat selection doesn't protect you the way you think it does. Because seat assignments are flexible assets to airlines, not guarantees. And even paid seats can be reassigned if the system determines a different configuration is needed, like moving families together, accommodating passengers with disabilities, or complying with aircraft safety requirements. And now let's talk about one of the sneakiest triggers of all, fare audits. Because airlines continuously audit ticket pricing, and if there's a discrepancy, system error, or fare rule violation, sometimes triggered by third-party booking sites, the airline may reprice your ticket behind the scenes, and that can result in seat loss or rebooking without a clear explanation. And this is why two passengers sitting side by side can be treated very differently during disruptions. Because one ticket is considered more protected than the other, and airlines won't say this publicly. But loyalty status matters more than almost anything else during rebooking chaos. Because frequent flyers represent long-term revenue. And systems are designed to protect them first, which doesn't mean you're powerless. But it does mean you need to understand how the game is played. And here's where most YouTube videos stop, but I want to go deeper. Because there's also the human behavior factor. And this is while airlines track how passengers respond to disruptions, and over time, the system learns which passengers accept rebooking quietly and which ones escalate, complain, or require compensation. And guess what? The quiet acceptors are statistically more likely to be moved again in the future, because the system flags them as low resistance. And I know that sounds dystopian, but it's real. And I've seen it from the inside. And let me tell you a quick story, because stories make this real. Last year, I worked with a couple flying internationally for a once-in-a-lifetime anniversary trip. Business class tickets, fully confirmed. And 2 hours before departure, they were rebooked onto separate flights without warning. No explanation, just a notification. And when we dug into it, the reason wasn't overbooking, or weather, or crew. It was a last-minute aircraft reassignment combined with a weight restriction due to unexpected cargo priority. Yes, cargo, because cargo contracts sometimes take priority over passengers, especially on long-haul routes, and the system chose passengers whose rebooking cost the airline the least. And that's the part travelers hate hearing, because airlines don't think in terms of fairness. They think in terms of efficiency and cost containment, and that's why this feels random, cold and personal all at once. And now, after all of that, here's what really matters: what you can actually do to reduce your chances of being rebooked without warning. Because no, you can't control weather or aircraft maintenance. But you can make yourself harder to move, and this is where airport hacks come in. Because booking earlier flights in the day reduces risk, since crews and aircraft are less likely to be disrupted. Avoiding tight connections lowers your high-risk profile. Checking in early but staying alert helps catch changes faster. Joining the airline's loyalty program, even at a basic level, adds a layer of protection. Booking directly with airlines instead of third-party sites reduces fare audit issues. Choosing flights with multiple daily alternatives gives the system easier rebooking options that don't destroy your trip. And carrying essential items in your carry-on protects you if you're separated from checked bags. And here's a big one: monitor your reservation manually. Don't trust push notifications alone, because changes can happen quietly. And finally, if you are rebooked, stay calm but assertive. Ask questions clearly, request alternatives, and document everything, because compensation rules vary. But knowledge gives you leverage. And here's my final suggestion for you: watching Golden Age travel tips. Right now, treat every airline ticket as a flexible agreement, not a locked promise. Plan with buffers. Understand the system and fly smarter, not just hopeful. Because the more you know about how airlines really operate, the less power those random rebookings have over your journey.